Folks, it's been 88 days since the twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief, Donald Trump, occupied the White House. During these 88 days, he has abused in a massive way presidential power by dismissing individuals from federal boards, laying off thousands of employees under the pretext of saying the government needs the money to fund other operations, openly disregarding court orders and unlawfully deporting individuals, and also just completely saying they're not going to comply with court orders. It's been a fierce battle fighting against him, especially in the federal court system. Janai Nelson, the president, director-counsel of the Legal Defense Fund, wrote an op-ed in The Nation called "We Can Defeat Trump's Lawlessness. We've Done It Before." She joins me right now. Janai, glad to have you here. You lay out that it can be defeated. Let's unpack that, because just we saw today, even in the very, very conservative Fifth Circuit, that judges have been nailing Trump on how they are abusing power, just deporting folks for the hell of it.
That's right. What is happening is so egregious that you see some of our staunchest, most conservative, some of the most extreme circuits and judges recognizing that our Constitution, our democracy, the rule of law itself is at stake because it is being abused so plainly in plain sight with zero restraint. And if there's any fidelity to the rule of law, if there's any interest in keeping this country from devolving into a full-out autocracy, the courts have to step in and enforce the law and recognize that no one is above the law. Even if this president thinks that he has full immunity, he still cannot engage in unlawful conduct without a check by these courts. And certainly the people in his administration don't enjoy the same immunity that he does. So what they're doing at his behest and at his direction is putting them, their lives, their livelihoods, their licenses at risk. Because in many instances, they are engaging in civil rights violations, potentially human rights violations, and misconduct that can lead them into potential criminal conviction. So this is serious business, and I'm glad to see that the courts are stepping up and stepping in.
So here's what's interesting right now. You've got Democrats saying it is wrong for Democrats to be focused on people like the man who was deported to El Salvador, Senator Chris Van Hollen, traveled there to meet with this man. They're saying, oh, no, you should ignore those things. But the courts are hitting them left and right. Now, I know the LDF is a nonpartisan group, but to me that sounds idiotic. If you believe in the rule of law, if you believe in the Constitution, then as Congresswoman Barbara Jordan said in the Watergate hearings, my faith in the Constitution is whole and it is complete. And I will not stand idly by and watch people abuse this. To me, that's crazy advice.
Yeah, as you said, LDF is nonpartisan. We don't give political advice. What we do is say what the law requires. And the law requires that every single person has a right to due process, has a right to be treated equally under the law, should not be subject to human and civil rights abuses. And the problem that we are in right now as a country is this very self-centered approach to rights and to protections. And we have to realize that if we are serious about the principles that hold this country apart from many others, or at least used to, that it doesn't matter who is being targeted. What matters is whether the principle that we believe in is being abused, if it's being ignored, if it's being weaponized. And we should not care against whom that is happening. We should simply care that it is happening. I'd like to believe that all of us believe that every human is created equal and deserves those protections and rights. But even if you don't believe that, the fact that these principles are being weaponized should be of concern to all of us, that this government has turned itself against its people is one of the most concerning developments in the evolution of this democracy in modern history. We are in uncharted waters, and this idea that our democracy is unraveling or maybe under authoritarian or fascist threat is no longer a notion. It is a clear and present danger that is actively unfolding in front of us.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at, I follow Kyle Chaney of Politico on Twitter. This was just 2 hours ago. He said, just in, lawyers for Venezuelan nationals say they're being loaded onto buses this hour in anticipation of a new wave of Alien Enemies Act deportations. With less than 24 hours notice, they're asking Judge Boasberg for an immediate restraining order requiring 30 days notice. They don't believe in due process. They don't believe in people following the process. We ran a video the other day of people thought was someone with ICE who was breaking the window of a man, and we find out that he was actually with a militia group. I mean, he was not actually with ICE. I mean, what Trump is doing, he is giving these people permission to essentially kidnap folks.
That's right. We're seeing live kidnappings. We're seeing live abductions. We're seeing people being pulled off the street without any explanation, without anyone giving any ID. And if anyone is confronted with that circumstance, they don't know what to do. They don't know if this is lawful conduct of people who are licensed and deputized with the authority to confront them, or if these are rogue criminal actors. And in many instances, we're seeing, as you pointed out, a confluence of both at the same time. We are in dangerous times, and this is anyone. If you are perceived to be someone who might be an immigrant or might not have lawful papers or citizenship here, you could be a target. And we're seeing with each passing day that every citizen in this country is closer to being under threat. An actual citizen was mistakenly detained by ICE and had to be returned. We're seeing a refusal by the government in El Salvador to return Mr. Garcia Abrego, Garcia, pardon me. It's unbelievable the level of incompetence and intentional harm and violence that's being inflicted by this government. And even when they recognize that they've done something wrong, they are not taking adequate steps to undo that harm and to retract their efforts and actions. So we are in very, very rogue territory, and we should be crying out in protest, and we should be calling on every elected official to do what Representative Van Hollen has been doing and what other representatives have been saying. Representative Garcia, with whom I was in conversation last night, and so many others have actually been speaking out, and we need to amplify those voices.
This right here is amazing. Have you ever, in your legal career, seen a judge write this? And this is a 3-judge panel, a Reagan appointee. And this is regarding Mr. Garcia, the man from Maryland. The judge writes, it is difficult in some cases to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case, it is not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody, that there's nothing that can be done. This should be shocking not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. The government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident of its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order. I mean, these judges are literally themselves shocked at what they are witnessing, and to have DOJ officials, lawyers walk into their courtrooms and literally say, we're not going to follow your order. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against Trump. He is out here going, oh, no. They ruled in our favor.
Yeah, well, we know that this administration traffics in lies and falsehoods. You know that they will look directly into a camera and tell you that what is up is down, what is left is right, and what is wrong is also right. And we are much smarter than that. We have to be discerning. And as media professionals, as you do all the time, media has to call it out. They have to name a lie. And that's what we're seeing. It defies exactly what was written in these court statements and court orders. And many people have talked about us approaching a constitutional crisis. We are having that crisis right now. And this crisis will only worsen unless this administration sees that there are actual consequences. They're going to be held in contempt of court. They may face actual fines. And if they continue to defy these court orders, they may face even more severe sanctions. And this is necessary if they're going to ignore an entire third branch of government when the Constitution established this tripartite system so that we have checks and balances. We can't have one branch, the executive branch, cancel out all others. And that's what's happening right now. Everyone must rein this in, including Congress, because if this administration continues to go too far, which it already has in my view, we need to be talking about impeachment. This is clear. This is clear. This president and his administration are violating all sorts of laws, and these are grounds for impeachment.
I know y'all have been focused on this as well, and in order to win, you need folks who are willing to fight. And when you have major law firms capitulating, cutting deals with Donald Trump because he's issuing, frankly, illegal executive orders targeting law firms, that can happen. Universities are buckling as well. Thankfully, Harvard, MIT, and others are fighting back. But in order to combat lawlessness, you've got to have people who are not afraid to fight.
Not afraid to fight, not afraid to enforce the law, not afraid to honor their oath to the profession that they sought to enter, for which we took an exam and completed an oath to uphold our Constitution. So it is deeply disturbing as a lawyer, as a person who has fought for civil rights for decades, who represents an institution, the Legal Defense Fund, that has used the law and the power of law and research and people in nonviolent, peaceful ways to help evolve this country for over 85 years. It is one of the most concerning matters at this moment to see the legal profession buckle. However, there are more of us who have stood firm than have buckled, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. There was an amicus brief that the Legal Defense Fund filed in support of Perkins Coie and Wilmer Hale and Jenner and Block, three law firms that are actually litigating against the Trump administration because of their lawless executive orders. And we're proud to stand with those law firms and to remind the courts that not only is what is happening unlawful in this moment, but it harkens back to a time period where organizations like ours and civil rights lawyers in the South were harmed and threatened, and there were attempts to intimidate us from pursuing what we knew what was right under the law, from pursuing our efforts to end legal apartheid in this country. And we stood firm and we prevailed. And that's what these law firms and lawyers must do today. When you face lawlessness in the eye, it is your obligation to use the power of law to defeat that lawlessness, that effort to undermine everything that we stand for and why we came into this profession in the first place. Because if we don't hold the line, we will quickly descend into a space that is irretrievably harmful for our citizens and, frankly, for the entire future of this country, our national security, our national standing. Really, it is a slippery slope into a true spiral that I don't know we will ever recover from if we don't start to gain hold of it.
And it's always amazing, Janai, and I tell people this all the time. It's always amazing when people finally wake up and realize what's going on. New York Times columnist David Brooks, conservative columnist, dropped this, and it says, "What's happening is not normal. America needs an uprising that is not normal." And he goes on and he writes about how empires died. And then he said, Trumpism is threatening all of that. It is primarily about the acquisition of power, power for its own sake. It is a multi-front assault to make the earth a playground for ruthless men. So, of course, any institutions that might restrain power must be weakened or destroyed. Trumpism is about ego, appetite, and acquisitiveness, and is driven by a primal aversion to the higher elements of the human spirit, learning, compassion, scientific wonder, the pursuit of justice. When you see the capitulation of media, unwilling to do stories, when you see, let's cut deals with Trump so our mergers can go through, and who cares if he's suing us because 60 Minutes interviewed Vice President Kamala Harris, or ABC cutting their deal and the money going to his library. What this is about is, let me break any institution that could shine a light upon me. When I do this show, I'm literally sitting across from this portrait of Ida B. Wells Barnett. And it hangs in our studio. Ida B. Wells Barnett is Harry Belafonte and is James Baldwin. And every time I see that Ida B. Wells Barnett photo, and let's get a shot of that, the quote that she has is right there when she talks about the way to seek truth is shine a light upon the darkness. And media, if there's a moment where media has to be willing to challenge power, this is it. If there's a moment where media has to inform the public of what's going on, this is it. When people hit me and go, you know what, man, y'all keep talking about Trump and MAGA, that's just enough. I'm like, no, it's not. If you don't understand that what is happening literally is about impacting the next 50 to 100 years, a total destruction of civil rights, that's what we are fighting. We are fighting literally for the next 2 to 3 generations.
I could not agree more, Roland. So, you said when people wake up, what will they see? And that's why there was this quote unquote war on woke, because they want people to remain asleep, to have their eyes closed to the criminality, to the corruption, to the destruction that we are seeing play out. Those of us who knew this was coming, those of us who saw the signs of it, those of us who have been screaming about the embers of white nationalism that are still burning in this country and now are a flame. We knew this was happening. That is why there are all of these efforts to ban books, to put limitations on protest, to stop people from being able to vote. There is an effort to take away all the levers of power, all the potential accountability of government, to take it and wrest it from the hands of the people and to put it in the hands of a very small, increasingly wealthy minority of people who do not have this country's interests at heart at all. It's only self-interest, self-aggrandizement, self-serving, self-dealing that is happening on the part of many in this administration. And so it is incumbent upon the media to lay those truths bare. This transcends party. This transcends politics. We're talking about basic fundamental rights. We're talking about whether the United States of America, as we have known it for the past 60 and nearly 250 years, whether it's going to continue to exist, whether we're going to continue to be in a free society. And we can continue to debate all sorts of policies. We can continue to have partisan politics and all sorts of things where we agree to disagree. But one thing we must stand united on is whether we want the United States of America to continue to exist. because that is the threat that we're facing. And so many people have been sounding this alarm, and I'm glad that more people are waking up to that piercing sound.
Yep.
And I hope it won't be too late before everyone recognizes the enormity of the threat that we face.
And this is one of the reasons why we have said on this show, this is not a moment to rest. This is not a moment to check out. This is not a moment for folks to say, hey, you know what, that's someone else's fight, because what is happening will impact every single one of us.
That's absolutely right. Everyone has to get engaged. Everyone has a role to play. I don't care what your position is, where you're located, what your identity is. You have a contribution to make in this effort to save our democracy, in this war against freedom, this war against truth, this war on education. Everybody has a role to play, and that can be any number of things, including how you spend your money, including how much you hold your elected officials and your representatives to account, including your ability just to educate your neighbors and friends and reach out and call people into this fight. It's imperative that each one of us find a role to play, because whether you think you're in this or not, you absolutely are. No one is exempt.
Indeed, indeed. Janai Nelson, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.